Welcome into the show, the Outsider Sports Football Podcast. That is Ben Mandel and Dylan Mel with me today. I'm Ryan Balliot, and we're missing Corey Jason tonight. I guess MetLife Security finally asked him to leave. So until he finds
because
another,
Bruce was there this weekend.
until he finds another stadium to loiter in front of during the season, we look forward to having him back next week. But a couple reminders before we get into the show today. Our last division preview episode, we're going to talk about the AFC West. Guys, it's football time. Meaningful football at its highest level. We're recording this on Tuesday night, September 5th. So in just 2 days' time from recording, the Lions and the Chiefs are going to be kicking off and getting the 2023 season started. So we have plenty of content coming out throughout the course of the season, power rankings, game picks, all of that good stuff. So make sure to check out our website, outsidersports.net. Follow us on X at outsidersports3. If you're a fan of the show, show your support. Subscribe on YouTube, like it follow on Spotify. And guys, let's get into this. The quick question for today. Week 1, what games are we looking forward to?
Look, as a Giants fan, Dallas coming into New York. It's always exciting, Sunday Night Football. But I have to go with the other New York team this week, and it's just because I feel like this game has so many implications right off the bat. Jets, Bills. Are Aaron Rodgers and the Jets for real? Is Aaron Rodgers still an MVP level quarterback? Are the Bills a legit Super Bowl contender? Because you can ask that the way they finished the season last year, the way they went out in the playoffs. I mean, lifeless in a home playoff game. Are you kidding me? So you expect more out of Buffalo. But the Jets have really high expectations too. This is a team that everyone said last year was a quarterback away from being not just a playoff team, but a Super Bowl team. And I'll tell you right now, this game is going to be electric.
Yeah, Ben, and similar to you, listen, I could talk about the Eagles. You guys know this, but they're playing the Patriots, not a dynamic offense. I don't expect it to be a really great watch, if I'm being honest. So my game of the week is not going in that direction. I'm actually going to the AFC North, which I've said I believe is the best division in all of football when it comes to pure talent. And we've got the Cincinnati Bengals on the road taking on the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are 5-1 against Joe Burrow in his career. You got weapons like Chase, Higgins, Cooper, Chubb all in this game. But my real question is, what are the Cleveland Browns? Is Deshaun Watson the shell of himself that we saw previously, or can he get back to that top 5 quarterback level? And if so, this Browns roster, they have the best running back in football, decent receiving weapons, and per PFF, they are top 10 at offensive line, defensive line, and secondary. Are they legit? The Browns could be from out of the playoffs to a Super Bowl contender this year, and we might very well find out week 1 against Joe Burrow and the Bengals.
Yeah, Cleveland Browns definitely, to me, have the widest range of outcomes over in a very competitive AFC. And I would love to say I'm looking forward to the Colts. Obviously, Anthony Richardson, can't wait to see him in action, but I've learned to temper expectations. The Colts haven't won a week 1 game since 2013. They finally didn't lose one last year when they tied with the Houston Texans. So I have learned to wait until week 3. This is still our preseason. We like to give our guys a little more time, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. It doesn't get better than this opening night. Months long wait. The Lions, they're in prime time. Actual expectations surrounding them. Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, always fun to watch. Some things to watch, though. Chris Jones in that contract, still not with the team. And earlier today, Travis Kelce with a hyperextended knee. So their title defense off to a bit of a rocky start this season. But Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, they'll figure it out. But that'll be an electric game. I have Jahmyr Gibbs in one of my fantasy leagues, too. So I can't wait to see his usage, especially last year, also having DeAndre Swift. So the Lions backfield, I'm ready to be hurt again. No question about it. But let's get in that AFC West. We'll start with those Kansas City Chiefs, defending Super Bowl champions, 14-3 record last year, projected win total over under 11.5. That seems like a pretty safe over. Dylan's the betting guy, so you give me your thoughts on that. But when you look at Kansas City here, where's the weakness? Because it feels like if you have Mahomes healthy, you have a chance to go all the way.
Well, and that's the thing, and that's what makes it so special when you have a generational talent like a Patrick Mahomes, because it doesn't matter what you're putting anywhere else on the field, right? I mean, their number one wide receiver coming into the season right now is going to be Kadarius Toney. I don't know if he's a legit number one. Travis Kelce with the injury, not sure exactly what his status for week one is going to be. They think the ACL is intact, so that's good news. But really, outside of him, they don't have a legit weapon on the offense. So that's where the weakness is. It's the offense. It's the weapons outside of Travis Kelce. Patrick Mahomes doesn't have a ton to work with. Now, he's proven that that doesn't matter. Patrick Mahomes can make anybody look good. A lot of people are excited to see what Sky Moore does with an increased role. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, does he actually produce what anybody thinks he can? Kadarius Toney, does he stay healthy for a full season? There are a lot of exciting things, and it's more not what are the Chiefs missing, more who's going to step up with the opportunity given to play next to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, for sure, Ben. And to answer your question, Ryan, 11.5 is the line. And listen, if you believe in Patrick Mahomes, you're betting the over because as his time as a starter, the Chiefs have not won less than 12 games. And that's including when the regular season was down a game. So, it seems like a square bet and a lot of people are on it. That's why I'm pretty sure the juice on that's like minus 160 right now. But listen, it's Kansas City, Super Bowl champs for a reason. But yeah, Ben, like you said, it's what is this offense? Can they just throw in wishy-washy wide receivers and Patrick Mahomes will make them work because he's that damn good? Or is it eventually going to catch up to Kansas City? Last year we said, oh, Juju, Mecole Hardman, MVS, it's not good enough to get the job done. And it was. Now you have Kadarius Toney, who went out there, is one of the most elusive players in the NFL, but already dealing with an injury in the preseason, which I'm sure you as a Giants fan know all too well. Travis Kelce now, does Father Time start creeping up? This is a guy who, once he became a starter, has not missed a single game due to injury. The 2 games that he's missed were the Chiefs already had the 1 seed locked up. Sit down. So it's all going to be on the health of Kelce and Mahomes, really, on the offensive side. The defense, they played, I believe, the 3rd most rookies last year and still won the Super Bowl. So I expect them to be good. At the end of the day, though, you have Mahomes, you have Kelce, you have Reed. As long as you have that 3-set combo, you'll be in the playoffs and you'll be a high seed at that.
Yeah, we should expect more of the same from Kansas City. A team that's so strange. What even expectations to place on them? The Los Angeles Chargers, 10-7 last year, projected over/under win total sits at 9.5 coming into this season. They were the 5 seed. They went to Jacksonville. They had a huge lead, and then they blew that lead in, Colts at Vikings fashion almost. And the Chargers are just routinely that team that they look so good on paper. Top 3 roster in the league on paper. But that's the thing. Is this the year they can finally translate that? They added Quentin Johnson, obviously Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, 2 great receivers, but they've struggled to stay on the field throughout their careers. So adding in that extra guy, Austin Eckler, we almost forget he requested a trade earlier this offseason. That's the one, hope that I have that the Jonathan Taylor solution will get resolved, that, maybe time will just pass on that, but Eckler is still there. This offense, this defense has plenty of talent. Joey Bosa, Derwin James. It's just, can it translate?
Well, and you talk about the health of the Chargers offense. The defense has dealt with it too. Derwin James, I'm pretty sure he's dealt with injuries the last couple of years. J.C. Jackson's a strong corner. Khalil Mack, since he's really been traded to the Chargers, feels like he hasn't been that impact player they were expecting. Khalil Mack still goes out there and makes plays. Joey Bosa is still a great pass rusher as well. Eric Kendricks is a good linebacker. I think offensively, everything's there. They don't have a weak spot in the offense, in my opinion. Maybe the offensive line, if you want to nitpick, but it's definitely not one of the worst in the league. When you look at Justin Herbert, the pieces are there for him to go succeed offensively. I still don't agree with them keeping Staley as the head coach. I think they needed to go get an offensive head coach for their quarterback. Instead, they go bring in Kellen Moore. Now we see, was Dak the problem or was Kellen Moore the problem?
Yeah, this has to be the year for the Chargers. You give Justin Herbert the big extension this offseason. You draft another really fast, really big wide receiver. You bring in Kellen Moore. This franchise has put all the pieces there to succeed. It's time for Herbert. It's time for Staley to get the job done. Austin Eckler requested a trade. Running backs don't ever get what they want in this league anymore. So he'll be out there and he'll be productive for them. Keenan Allen last year, another guy who dealt with injuries. Be something to see if he could stay healthy. Same with Mike Williams, Quentin Johnson, Gerald Everett. Ben, you mentioned the offensive line. Rashawn Slater is one of my favorite young and up and coming tackles in the league. They got somebody to protect Trevor Lawrence. And on the defense, if they can stay healthy, they're dangerous at every level. You have Bosa, you have Khalil Mack, you have Kendricks, you have J.C. Jackson, you have Derwin James. It's a loaded team.
Ben, should we let that slide?
I mean, I think we're both laughing, so I think you just got to tell.
Yeah, Dylan, when did Rashawn Slater get traded to Jacksonville?
What?
He said he was protecting Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, my mind's always on the Prince.
See,
my mind's
I
always
apologize,
on the
man.
Prince.
I was trying to hold it together, and then I saw Ryan
Just looking
start
at
to. I looked at Ryan, I saw him start to laugh, and I lost it.
We're having fun. All right,
I'm in the
let's
middle
talk
of a fantasy draft, fans. Okay, this is dedication for me to be on here.
Love the
Well,
grind.
why don't we, Dylan? Why don't you? There's a little bit of bad blood going on between the top and bottom of the screen right now. So, Dylan, why don't you shed some light, because we did start an Outsider Sports Dynasty Fantasy Football League.
Yeah, we did, and Ryan. Not to the fans, sometimes you get sniped in draft picks, and that happens. I got sniped before the draft, as I had the number 2 pick. Thought Jamar Chase would definitely fall to me. And then Ryan trades up to number 1, trading away depth of picks just to take him away from me when he knew I wanted him.
Well, and here's some context, because Ryan was picking 3, Dylan's picking 2. Dylan, about 2 hours before the draft, changes his team name to something involving Jamar Chase's name.
Yeah. Team name and team picture, completely Jamar Chase branded. And Dylan, like you, I'm sitting at 3 thinking Jamar Chase is going to follow me at 3. Then you kind of tip everything off there. You show your hand a little bit. And at the end of the day, like NFL general managers, you have to go get your guy. Jamar Chase was the top player I wanted in that draft. I'm sorry, it's not personal, but you gotta go get your guy. All right.
Just like real life NFL GMs, I have a massive ego, so it is now personal.
There you go. We're always having fun here at Outsider Sports. But let's talk about the Raiders here. 6-11 last year, not a great season by any means. Projected win total this year, 7.5. The treatment of Derek Carr is something to note. At the end of the season last year, they let him go. They bring in Josh McDaniels' guy, Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, I'm higher on than others around the NFL talking head landscape, I guess. I don't see that as a huge upgrade when you consider that outside of like Max Crosby and first round pick Tyree Wilson, this defense still doesn't really have any playmakers on it. And of course, you have Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs. They did get that squared away. He was another guy kind of holding out. He was franchise tagged, didn't want to deal with that. So he kind of did what Saquon did, 1-year deal. He'll play this year. But I don't know about you guys. I could definitely see Josh McDaniels getting fired before the end of the season if things aren't going well. If they're sitting towards the cellar of the NFL, to me, Josh McDaniels has lucked into 2 head coaching gigs that he probably shouldn't have had. 3 if you consider his one-day tenure with the Colts as anything. But I remember, was it Corey a few weeks ago when we talked NFC South, said Dennis Allen, or maybe it was Dylan, said Dylan was worst head coach in the league. I said, no. I have Josh McDaniels at the bottom. What do you guys think of the Raiders' outlook for this season?
Can we talk about Chandler Jones? Did you guys see this?
I did see it briefly. I don't know. I didn't even know what
Locked
to make
out.
of that.
So
like that Jamal Adams video.
Yeah, he's pretty much saying no, but like Chandler Jones goes and posts on his Instagram screenshots of apparently like text messages of just him texting like guys in the organization, like the coach and the GM, and no one responding to him. He's not able to go work out in the gym because the team facility was closed. Like, it's not even like everyone else was in there and they weren't letting him in. Like, they just weren't letting anyone in, apparently. And I guess Chandler Jones is a guy who's now dealing with a lot of frustration towards the head coach. And this sounds a lot like what he was doing to Darren Waller last year. It may be a trend. Maybe McDaniels is just really just not good towards the players, and he's been around Belichick too long. But he needs to realize he's not Bill Belichick.
If he was around Belichick too long, he'd take care of his defense. Was that it for you, Ben, on the Raiders? I
was gonna let you. I was gonna let you go in.
I was just making a snide
a
comment. I thought you were going to talk about the Raiders more than just.
I mean, I could go. I mean, I'm just that's basically all I have to say. You can go in. I don't need to say anything else.
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, you mentioned that you're higher on Jimmy G than most, Ryan. And that's especially true for me because I think Jimmy G is just a glorified game manager, but in an AFC West that's going to be competitive, that has good defenses, and that has two loaded offenses. Listen, we said that the skill group for Kansas City isn't that great, but it's Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. That offense is loaded. They're not going to be able to keep up. And on defense, all they have is edge rushers. Are they going to start playing Max Crosby at cornerback one of these days? Because they have no secondary. Good luck covering Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. The Raiders, they're an organization. You know, I've said it for a couple of teams. They should tank for Caleb now. Okay, Jimmy Garoppolo is probably going to be hurt midway through the season. Commit to the tank. Chandler Jones is mad. Move him to a new team. Let Tyree Wilson get those additional snaps. The Raiders, listen, it's Josh Jacobs, it's Devontae Adams. It's cool for your fantasy team. But I don't see them as a winning team this year.
Yeah, I definitely view the AFC West as a clear top half and a clear bottom half. And the other team with the Raiders in the bottom half are the Denver Broncos. 5-12 last year. And if the Colts weren't the worst offense to watch, it was the Broncos. It was a rough year for the horse teams. 8.5 is surprisingly their win total. I'm still taking the under on that. This was a team that 2 years ago looked like they were a quarterback away, and they got a quarterback. It was the lifeless husk of one that used to be good with Russell Wilson. Tim Patrick for the second year in a row, season-ending injury. Jerry Jeudy has a hamstring injury already. Javonte Williams coming off the ACL injury. And I don't know what your guys' viewpoint on Sean Payton is, but we joke around about personal agendas and vendettas that I have. I have an actual one against Sean Payton because you guys remember the Bounty Gate stuff, like to try and get your players to go out there and purposely injure and remove from the game your opponents. Teams will cheat. They'll take shortcuts to try and get what edge they have competitively, but to me, that's the bottom of the barrel. Then Sean Payton, you don't have to go further than a few weeks ago saying, oh, if we don't do good this year, it's because the last regime was just that awful at their jobs, and taking a shot at Nathaniel Hackett and kind of breaks the unwritten rule of coaching. You know, you don't talk poorly about your fellow coaches. I am not a Sean Payton guy. Even outside of that, I don't think he can resurrect Russell Wilson. I don't think we're going to have a Russ resurgence this season. I think it's another tough year for Denver. I think they have first round picks again, right? They traded the 2 away to Seattle for Russ.
I'm not sure if they have their own this year.
I'm not sure.
I mean, they're definitely going to be all in on winning regardless. I do want to clarify, when you said you had a personal vendetta against Sean Payton, I smirked, not thinking it was going to be about Bounty Gate, but about the Super Bowl that the Saints beat the Colts in.
Well, listen,
So, I mean, just to clarify, I wasn't laughing at players being intentionally targeted.
That's certainly part of it, because I'll tell you what, the Minneapolis Miracle, the pass interference non-call, I sat there with a smile on my face for both of those, seeing the Saints' dreams get ripped away from them. But yeah, Denver, I mean, Patrick Surtain, I love him as a player. Justin Simmons, obviously Javonte Williams is one of my favorite players in the league. He was my favorite running back out of that draft class. something's still wrong in Denver. And I think they're a team that if they do have their own first round pick this year, we'll have to double check on that. I think they'll be in the Cale Williams, Drake May
They,
situation, but the Russell Wilson
I
contract's going to be tough to. We talked about like with Kyler last week. We'll see with Denver.
Yeah, and the difference between Russ and Kyler is at least Kyler has age going for him at this point. But the Broncos do have their own first round pick this year.
Okay.
So I did check that. They do have their own first round pick as of now. Now, I'm a bit higher on the Broncos than you guys. I think that the Denver Broncos are certainly a playoff caliber team. Like you said, 2 years ago, it was a quarterback away. I think Nathaniel Hackett was that bad. Now, I do agree with you. Sean Payton should never have gone out and said anything about the coaching staff that was there before him, but that's how bad they were. They actually a legitimate joke with some of the things that you heard going on. The fact that the crowd in the stadium is literally counting down the play clock so you don't have a delay of game at a home game. That's just unbelievable, right? The coaching was so bad. 4 weeks in, he had to bring in a game manager. That's literally your job, dude. Come on. So I think that Sean Payton is going to level things out. Whether you like him or not as a person, as a football coach, his track record speaks for itself. His time in New Orleans, they had a lot more winning, successful seasons than losing seasons, and a lot more seasons where they were not only pegged as playoff teams, but Super Bowl contenders. I think Denver has a very, very good defense. I love their edge rushers. I think they have a very good secondary when you have guys like Pat Surtain, Kareem Jackson, Damari Mathis is good. I think they did I think they did a great job boosting up the offensive line, bringing in Ben Powers and Garrett Bowles. I think those two guys are very, very important to shore up the left side for Russ. Let Russ cook. I'm telling you right now, Russ is going to have at least some semblance of a bounce back year. Am I sitting there putting all my eggs in his fantasy football basket this year like I did last year? No. I've not taken him in a league for that reason. But I think that the Broncos have the talent, they have the weapons, the arm strength. It's not like it's gone. The arm is still there. Give Russ time, give him a coach that knows what he's doing, and I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, so I land in the middle of you guys. I don't project Denver to be a playoff team. I think the AFC is a very loaded conference and, kind of bad luck of the draw there. But the injuries that this team has suffered to offense in the preseason, Jerry Jeudy going to miss some extended time, Tim Patrick out for the season, Javonte Williams coming back off a torn ACL. How good is he going to be right off the rip? Now it's just Cortland Sutton there. And listen, Russell Wilson's going to be better than he was last year, and the team's going to be better than they were last year because Sean Payton is a mile ahead of Nathaniel Hackett as a head coach. Again, like you mentioned, Ben, they do upgrade the offensive line. I think Denver's going to be a team that gives your favorite team a tough game week to week for sure. And the defense is loaded. I think Pat Surtain's the best corner in football. I'm willing to stamp that already. But I just have this team kind of lingering around the middle of the pack because I don't think that they have the offensive firepower to keep up with some of these top tier teams in the AFC.
All right, so let's go ahead and break this division down. I'm not going to go exactly how it finished last year. I'm going to still have the Chiefs at 1, Chargers at 2, but I'll give Denver the 3 spot over the Raiders.
Yeah, I think there is going to be a bit of a shakeup. And I think, while we all are probably taking the Chiefs to win this division still, we might finally have a little bit more disagreement here. I'm going with the Chiefs, but then I'm going with the Broncos in second. I think that you have 3 teams in this division that will finish 500 or better in the Chargers, Broncos, and Chiefs. But, I don't know if we have more than one playoff team. I think we're going to see the Broncos in second, Chargers in third, and then we're going to see the Raiders in fourth. I think that Staley has exposed himself at this point as a head coach for the Chargers. He's not good enough to get the job done. San Diego. Los Angeles is going to have to wait at least one more year for them to be legit contenders for them to get because they need to get an offensive head coach.
Wow, San Diego, Ben. That was probably the biggest blunder on the show today. I'm going to go with the Chiefs at 1, Chargers at 2, Broncos 3, Raiders 4. Copy and paste of what Ryan said. I do think the Chargers and the Chiefs both make the playoffs. I think it's a very tight race until the end. If the Chargers can stay healthy. And, feels like we rinse and repeat that every year, but I can't predict injury.
So before we call it a wrap on the show, we're going to go through one more segment here. Back in May, before we took our little summer break, we gave our way too early Super Bowl predictions. Now we're just going to give our too early Super Bowl predictions with the regular season right here in front of us. I went back and had the double check. I had the 49ers beating the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to stick with those two teams still to face off once again in the Super Bowl, but with Trey Lance out the door now, Sam Darnold quicker in line potentially to be the starting quarterback should Brock Purdy not be ready to go or get hurt again. We could have another revolving door here in San Francisco at the game's most important position, but hopefully Shanahan's a little more prepared. But I still have the ultimate trust in Mahomes and Andy Reid. I've reached the point. It was a while ago, but I can never count them out, just like I could never count Bill Belichick and Tom Brady out. So I'm going to have Chiefs over 49ers right now.
What did I go with, Ryan? Who did I have for my way too early?
I couldn't even find it.
I feel like I went somewhere along the lines there, but right now I'm feeling a little frisky when it comes to the AFC because I don't want to go with Cincinnati or Kansas City because that's where everyone's going. I'm going
ride.
Buffalo.
Oh.
I'm going Buffalo.
I thought he was going all the way with Denver.
No.
Ride right off a cliff. Is that true? Did I see that they showed the video?
I did see that. I did see that. But no, I'm going Buffalo. I think that this is the year for Josh Allen where he proves Ryan Balliet wrong, shows him that he is a top 5 quarterback. He's going to go on a playoff run, and he's going to end up beating Mahomes in Arrowhead in the AFC Championship game this year. I believe that he will do that. And, I think that on the NFC side, there's really only one team. There is one team that is a Super Bowl contender. The NFC is weak. You heard Stephen A. talking about it earlier today, why the Giants are going to make the playoffs. And it's because the rest of the NFC is just not good. It's the Philadelphia Eagles.
Nice. Love the Eagles. Love there. No shocker. I'll start in the NFC. I got the Birds coming out. And it's not a biased pick. I'm sure if they weren't good enough to be in the Super Bowl, I'd still pick them as a biased pick. But this one's not. They were just there last year. They have the best roster in the NFC, top to bottom. And Jalen Hurts is going to be on a revenge campaign. You guys saw that lock screen on his phone. You saw what exactly it was. Him walking out of last year's Super Bowl with red and yellow confetti falling on him. You don't look at that every day and not come into the season ready to go. And I actually have a different AFC team than Ben and Ryan. I'm going the Cincinnati Bengals. They boost up that offensive line. This could be the last year that they have these weapons and T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and Joe Mixon all there. Joe Burrow has to get paid, has to get an extension. It hasn't happened yet. I think it might be because Joe Burrow doesn't want it to happen yet, and he wants to set the market next offseason because he knows Cincinnati will have to pay him anyways. The defense, it gets talked about as losing some pieces, but you still have Hubbard, Hendrickson, Awuzie, who got hurt last year, who was having a really solid year. Jesse Bates gone, but this is a team that could be buyers. You know what I mean? We just talked about Chandler Jones as a guy who could be on the move. Now, I'm not sure what the cap situation is there, but the Bengals could, the NFL players, they kick the can down the road all the time. Oh, Joe Burrow, we're going to make his whole salary a sign-off bonus. So we got $15 million in cap space now. I have Bengals making it, but I do have, of course, my Eagles defeating them.
Yeah, I need these NFL cap managers to take a look at my bank accounts, but that's going to do it for today's show. So all you outsiders out there, enjoy week 1 of the NFL season, however you spend it, whatever games you're going to watch. Join us next week when we react to all of that and look forward to week 2. I'm talking about week 2 already. All right. Join us next week on the Outsider Sports Football Podcast. Thanks for listening. Yeah, no one likes Kyle Pitts.